Broadcasting from the heart of downtown Hollywood. This is SoFloRadio.com.
Welcome to another edition of Rick Show on the Radio, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Today we have another great edition of our Skype Jam session with two really great musicians and great friends of mine. In the studio we have Mr. Kieth Ridenower. How you doing, Keith? And then virtually present we have our friend Mr. Dean Madonia. How you doing, Dean? All right. Okay. All right. So anyway, we're glad to have you, Dean. Where are you calling in from? You're not in Nashville right now. Where are you calling in from?
Actually calling in from Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City.
Yep.
Oklahoma, where the
the wind likes to sweep down the plain here a lot.
It does.
A lot of sweeping going on around here.
You see any tumbleweeds? They're known for tumbleweeds too, right?
Tumbleweeds and tornadoes.
Oklahoma cattle.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mr. Dean Madonia, thank you. You're represented on the on the internet here, playing some piano with us today, right?
Yes, I am.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's get started on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Here, I got these great songwriters here, and as I have indicated on the Facebook posts, we're going to be talking about songwriting today, right, guys?
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan
good to me.
And you guys know a little something about songwriting, I guess, don't you?
Absolutely.
Thing or two.
All right, good. Oh, I'll tell you what. Let's talk to Keith first here, okay? Because he's sitting right here in the studio, and Mr. Kieth Ridenower.
How are you, buddy?
All right,
good to
man.
see you.
I'm glad to have you here.
Well, it's good to be here.
It's kind of an interesting thing with you and I. We played in a lot of different bands, not in the same band for like a long, long time. And
right.
So what happens is that, and it happens with a lot of musicians. I'm sure you know, Dean, that we all know of everybody, but we never really maybe played together or had a lot of conversation. I think that's the case with us, right?
Absolutely. You wind up playing in a couple, 2-3 bands over the years. You change members, but you know all the members in the other bands.
Exactly, yeah.
Then you don't see them for 30 years.
Yep.
And you go, hey, how you been, man?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like what I'm trying to do with our Skype Jam session thing, is to bring old friends and old collaborators back together. And even if they live in another part of the country or another part of the world, really, we can bring them all together here on the show and have a little reunion and play some music over the internet.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So we're all tuned up and ready to go here. And at the end of the show, we're going to play a song together that's going to be interesting, our Skype Jam session. But in the meantime, let's get back to Mr. Ridenower.
Yes.
Keith, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and when did you move into the area?
We'll do the short version.
Yeah.
I was born in Jersey, moved down here as a little kid. By the time I was probably 10, my dad was managing bands, and they used to play in Deerfield at the Chamber of Commerce and out in the fishing pier. So my brother and I would always be there.
Your brother's Randy, right?
Yes. And so shortly after that, the bands would rehearse in our living room. Before you knew it, I had a plastic swinger guitar from Eckerd Drugs. He had a bunch of garbage cans flipped upside down. We started playing, and little by little, by the time I was 13 and he was 10, we actually got paid to play our first gig. I think we made $60 to split between the four of us.
What year are we talking there? That's
that would probably be 1957, 60, about 1969, 1970. Right around there, we did our first gig for the JCs.
Wow, that's cool. And so how about in this area down here? Because
it's all been down here. We moved down here when I was a little kid.
Okay, yeah.
So Pompano, Deerfield,
right.
And then we had the same band Blackwatch until we were about 19 or so, or I was 19 or so. Then we had a band with Tom Gravely and Chris Gartland called Uproar, and we had that for quite a while.
I remember Uproar, yes. That was our friend Tom Gravely, who was their keyboard player in my old band Dreamer. Hey, Tom, I hope you're listening.
Tommy boy.
Hello.
Tommy boy.
By the way, we might have some other musicians and friends listening in, and I just wanted to remind you guys, if you want to call in and say hello to either Dean or Keith or myself, give us a call here at 954-990-0036, and we'll see if we can't get you on the air, making sure that you don't kick Mr. Madonia off our Skype thing. But maybe one of you guys want to call in and say hello.
Absolutely.
Or
Dean,
if anybody has any questions about songwriting, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
Absolutely. Dean, you're looking good out in Oklahoma, bro.
Yeah, man.
I'm feeling good, man. There's no tornadoes. That's my new criteria for having a good time in Oklahoma. As long as there's no tornadoes, I'm happy.
Nice.
That's asking a lot, actually, here.
Yeah, I was going to say I thought that would be setting the bar a little low, but maybe not for Oklahoma.
No.
All right, so Keith, getting back to you.
So, yeah, we played in a band called Black Roach. Then I was in Harvest for a while.
Oh, yeah.
With Lenny and Eddie and John Tillman.
John Tillman, what a great guy he is.
Johnny.
A good guitar player.
Great guitar player.
Yeah.
And then we did an original band after Uproar called Razor Red. And then after that, I
saw you guys at the Button South.
It was a fun band, lots of hair.
Yeah.
It's a hairy band.
There was a lot of hair going on in the 80s at the Button South.
A lot of hairspray.
Mm-hmm.
Fine on that. So we did that, and then I got involved with the Dirty Dancing soundtrack and really wanted to do more of the writing because I saw what was happening with the writers. So I wound up getting out of the band thing for a while, built Ridenower Recording Rehearsal.
All right,
That's where actually me and Dean used to see each other before we both moved to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And did that and eventually sold it after 10 years, moved to Nashville, and that's where Dean and I got connected. And then after about 9 years, I came back down here to build Marquee.
Right.
And the plan was to build it here and then go right back to Nashville. It just took so long to get the first one going that we decided, okay, we need to stay put for the moment.
Right. So your family is
everybody moved back here.
Oh, okay.
But I still go back there a lot to write and do business stuff. All the publishing stuff and admin stuff is still all there.
Well, that's where a lot of that's where the songwriting capital of at least the United States is. Wouldn't you guys agree? Is Nashville right now?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's where everybody goes that are songwriters. And so let's talk a little bit about the songwriting process and maybe how it's changed. The focus of songwriters and music has changed over the years. Like, we're old enough that we remember the old, the big stadium days of the 70s and that kind of music that was much more organically recorded and listened to. Like, you had to go to a concert, more or less.
Right.
Now, everything is pretty much on the internet and, in my opinion, a lot of the music companies are gearing towards finding songwriters and getting them to write songs for their artists that are already there and not necessarily picking up a band, but, finding the songwriters in the band and using them for their artists. Don't they do that a lot?
Absolutely. Dean, why don't you talk a little, and then I'll chime back in afterwards.
Sure. Well, I'd say that there's still bands playing. They're just not getting a lot of airplay. I think the difference between now and then, the Almost Famous days, you remember that movie.
Yes.
That's how it seemed when I was growing up. It seemed like, I was that kid, and there was people like Philip Seymour Hoffman's character who were knowledgeable about music and like knew deep cuts and all of the spin-off records, and spin-off projects, and people would rent a house and live there and have parties there and jam every day. And now it's like somebody wants to get on The Voice or something like that, and if they don't make it, then they're going to go to work for their dad or whatever after the first 3 months. It doesn't seem like there's as many of those people that just love music and they've totally committed to it. And it's a lifelong thing. There's still people doing it, but you're not hearing a lot of them on the radio, I don't think.
So how would that change? Let's talk about the songwriting thing.
Sure.
For both of you guys, of course, everybody, a lot of my friends are musicians, but not all of them are songwriters.
Right.
They're good at their instrument, but they're not. They don't have the inspiration to write a song. Keith, when did you start noticing that you had that gift?
I kind of started probably around 17, I remember I did a couple things at Mike Banera's studio here.
Oh yeah, Mike.
And that was probably 10th grade. And we made a 45 and wound up throwing it at trains later because there was nothing to do with it once you did it, but it was really cool at the time. Right. But I think at that point it was on sheer just listening to music that you loved, and you started emulating it, and you started creating kind of your own way you wrote. And I was never like in a jam band or anything. And a lot of guys I hung out with all played in bands that jammed.
Right.
The band that I had with Blackwatch and the guys, we were kind of a top 40. So everything I wrote was kind of based around the 3.5 minute. Not because I tried to do it, it just you were so used to doing it that you automatically kind of fell into that thing. When you go to Nashville in particular, because I haven't really done a lot in LA or New York, but in particular Nashville because I live there, you kind of got to create your own little niche for yourself. And what I found out there, as Dean will attest to, because we both did it, the sooner you can lock into writing with artists that have a deal,
right,
or write with artists that are close to a deal, or their brother, sister, father,
or that
producer.
Or that are good enough to get a deal. You feel you believe in them enough to get a deal.
That's what you got to kind of create. I tell people, because I do a lot of songwriting kind of class lessons at Marquee.
Right.
And I have a lot of young kids that are just so passionate and so crazy about it. They're really good at either writing a journal, and they got great rhyme schemes and stuff. They don't even realize what they're doing. They're not doing perfect rhymes, but they're doing rhyme. And you go, oh, you got something.
Right.
And, there are a lot of people that are totally passionate about it. And I think there's a lot of people that after a while, particularly in Nashville, that they just get beat up because they're constantly getting told no.
Yeah.
It took a couple of years for me to figure out of writing and writing and writing and writing and writing to finally get it. I got very lucky and got a song on the Heartland record, and the only reason I did probably is because I wrote with the producer. And then Dean and I actually wrote with the band a lot. And once I realized that, I was like, forget us sitting in the room just writing to write. As much as that's great and cool, if you have any shot of getting on a record, you need to write with somebody close to the camp, somebody at the label, somebody who's connected to them at the publishing company, because you have a better shot at least getting on the record. But if you can write with the artist, that's the best shot, in my opinion, that you can get.
Well, it sounds like there's a difference in the approach, meaning that like say if you're young and you're with the band and you're the songwriter, you want to write a song for your band.
Exactly.
You want to be the next whatever muse or whatever. But then maybe that doesn't happen, so you take your songwriting skills and you do this other approach. Is that correct, Dean?
Yeah, I mean, I've always written, but like, Mark Scola was a big influence for Kieth. He also was for me because his wife came out to see me play a lot at a place called Mr. Laughs in Davie. I don't know if you remember that place.
Of course.
We were the house band there, and she said, you have to meet my husband. So I went over to his place, and I played him some songs, and he told me something that made a difference in my life, like it changed my life, which is you need to get out of bands. I mean, I didn't get out of bands. I still did bands. But he's like, you need to quit relying on bands and having to put bands together and replace members all the time. It's taking up all your time. And learn the songs you want to do. Just do a single. The key as a songwriter is to free up as much of your time to write. And if you do a single and learn the songs you want when you want them, you don't have to worry about all the drama. At least with the cover bands, trying to make a living doing it, it's just a lot of drama and a lot of headaches and a lot of time consummation, And once I did that, I started playing almost all solos except for the original projects I was involved in. And man, what a difference! Way better.
Yeah. Do you think that
except for the band I was in with you, which was awesome, and
that band, thank you for saying that. That was a good band.
And I met my wife there too, so that worked out good.
Yeah, that was at Tarpon Bend in
Fort Lauderdale,
late '90s. Yep,
I
remember that. Yeah.
The thing too that happens now a lot that I see in Nashville is you have a lot of guys that are artists that were writers or in bands. They had their own band. They weren't getting deals, but all of a sudden their songs started getting cut by major artists. So now all of a sudden Jason Aldean's doing a Brantley Gilbert song and another Brantley Gilbert song and another one, or Cole Swindell's having Luke Bryan or somebody cut his stuff, and the record company's going, just give these guys a deal. They're already writing for major artists. They've already got a ton of hits under their belts, and that's what's happening a lot. They're not necessarily... You know, if you and I were in our 20s and we were trying to go there, we got a shot if you're great. I mean, the bar is so high, it's not funny. However, if you're a writer and you're an artist, but you're not on the radar yet, but as a writer, artist, your songs are getting picked up by major artists at major labels, you got a tremendous shot. Because it's a no-brainer at that point for the label.
Sure, yeah. That's how it,
you already got it there. You're already publishing monies in the pipeline. You've already got hits on the radio, and now all of a sudden we're going to put your own record out.
That makes sense.
Now the other side of that is I've met some people. Well, I mean, I think you wouldn't mind me saying it, but Tim Buppert is a great drummer, and he's also he did a lot of. When he first came to town, he told me that he didn't ever want to be an artist. He only wanted to sing demos, and the other people didn't know that, and they saw him as being a person who had a very good chance at getting a deal, so he got to write with a bunch of really big writers, and he got some hits from that. And that's a thing for artists. I tell them, you know, yes, try to be an artist. If you're, you know, young and good looking and you have some talent, you might get a chance, at least at first, when people are interested in you, to write with some really great people. And if you got the talent to keep it going, it could end up being a career for you as a writer.
That sounds interesting. So it sounds to me like you guys are saying the best approach is to send your songs to individual artists and not necessarily the publishing companies.
Yeah,
not just send them, but to actually
write with them is the deal.
Write with the artist.
That's the ticket. You can send them all day long.
Yep.
You know, when I first moved there, I wrote with a couple guys that were at Byron Gallimore's company. Byron Gallimore produces Tim and Faith and Sugarland, so I thought, oh, we're in.
Sure,
but
we're
what
in.
I found out was we were trying to write for Faith Hill's record. There's already 100 guys that are way ahead of us that got a much better shot. But I didn't know that at the time. You're all excited. You're right in there. It's her producers doing it. But the reality is there's already 10, 15 writers that she's had hits with.
Yeah,
they're going to go to them first. And you got to kind of learn that. You know, you got to write.
You have to beat their songs like a club them like a baby seal good. You know, you can't just be as good or a little bit better. You got to totally devastate their songs to even have a chance.
And I've also seen where this happens. You have a great song. There's no denying it. Everybody hears the song. But politically, you are just not in the camp.
Yeah. Tell us about that. What exactly do you mean by that?
I'll tell you exactly what I mean. I'm not going to, nobody in particular, but let's just say that I write a song and I'm pitching it for Tim McGraw. Now, I happen to, you know, live down the street from one of the Warren brothers for years. They had, you know, tons of hits, but they wrote for Tim and Faith for years. Well, if somebody at the company hears my song and they go, wow, it's great, it's amazing, and Brett plays one of his songs, I don't have a shot. I mean, the reality is, they might say you do, but the reality is they're going to go to the people first they've had success with. They're going to go to the people first that are in their camp.
Right.
Because they know who to go to for admin, the publishing. They know if they can get a taste of their public. That's the one thing I think is worth mentioning on this show, that most musicians / writers, musicians first, don't know a lot about the business side and how the business side works. There are a lot of artists that I've met that the publisher that I'm with now, that we represent their songs, they have great songs, but they don't know anything about the business side, how it breaks down, how much of this, how much of that, how hard it is to blah, blah, blah. They just, it's like, you know, tunnel vision. They're trying to be the artist.
Sure. Well, that makes sense, though, doesn't it?
It makes definitely makes sense, but that's the thing that people aren't aware of. You know,
that'll
they don't
separate
get
the successful person from the person spinning their wheels, I guess. Right.
The truth is, you gotta play the game. You know, and then there's the other side. I just write what I want to write. I really don't care. I'm not trying to get anybody a deal. I'm not trying to get my songs cut. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants your songs.
Yeah.
We produced a girl. and she had no interest in a record deal at all from Michigan. And while we're in probably song number 5, she wanted to do a record so someday her kids could listen to what she did. That's all she wanted to do.
Sure.
6 songs into the project, the producer and I are looking at each other going, are you thinking what I'm thinking? She has no interest whatsoever. But she could have a great shot if she wanted to. She just doesn't want to. So there's that side of it too. She'll get some of her songs picked up by bluegrass artists and people like this,
right,
and she'll be thrilled to death.
Right. Well, so it sounds to me like if you're a new songwriter, you don't want to try to write for Faith Hill or Tim McGraw. You want to write for maybe
a brand new artist.
And it sounds, I've heard that there's like a cottage industry that's being made from these shows like The Voice and American Idol, where they got a lot of these guys that didn't quite make it, but they kind of have enough popularity, I guess, that they get picked up, and then they look to you guys or the songwriters to write songs for them. Is that true, Dean?
Yeah, that is true. There's actually, I remember back to the Idol days, back in Miami, I remember I was recording some stuff at Desmond Child's studio at the Gentleman's Club, my friend Craig Gloswick, and he was telling me about these song camps. That's the first time I ever heard of it. Not like a song camp like an NSAI instructional camp,
right?
A camp where a bunch of writers all come together for a weekend or a week, whatever it takes. They take turns writing with each other. It's like a songwriter's retreat. I've been on a few of them.
Wow,
and you write
it's
with
like a retreat.
And for the person that is on that show that's winning, or just somebody that is so good on the show that maybe they're not right to win the show,
right,
but they know they could get a record deal. And they all write, and that's where all those songs come from. They don't even go out. So, that's a good example of what Keith was saying. That's such an inside thing to be invited to something like that.
Wow.
You got to be a pretty big songwriter to even get that. But then that's like free money. The person's already known. They have a following. Everybody recognizes their face from TV. They already kind of have a management thing in place because of the show that they're on. And now they got all these great songs. I mean, and if they have any talent at all, there's really no excuse for them not to be, fairly successful.
Sure, especially if the record company puts a team of songwriters together for them, right?
And that's definitely happened with certain artists. You got to figure this on American Idol, America's Got Talent, The Voice. If you make it to the top 10 or 12, you've got millions of people watching you. So think about the business side. The record company's going, we could probably definitely at least sell 500,000 records.
Right.
Now, I don't know the mechanics of it, but I do know you pretty much sign your life away when you sign a contract to be on The Voice or one of those shows. So I don't know how much of that pie is available for a record label unless the people from The Voice have their own label. I don't know how that even works.
Yeah, it's probably they probably already have all this stuff figured out. Like if you're like in the top 10, then you're going to get this type of deal option to you, that type of thing.
I thought, I could be totally wrong, but I thought I heard about 3 or 4 weeks ago that Carrie Underwood's deal with Idol just ended.
I believe that. I believe it.
Wow,
so,
she was the first one.
She's a superstar. I mean, she is a bona fide superstar.
Yeah.
And I think, I could be wrong, but I thought that's what I heard, that her deal is finally up. Now,
that's long term.
Somebody like her, obviously she's making a lot of money anyway. She's got tons of success. But you got to figure, if you make it to the top 10 or 12, if you have some smart people around you, you should be able to make a career out of that. Unless you get jaded and decide it's not for me. I get beat up too much.
I guess a lot of people do that too, and I'm sure there's a lot of artists that don't have that business savvy towards their music that they're writing. They go, well, I want to do this for me, or I don't want to give it to somebody else. That type of thing.
That happens a lot.
Or even people go, well, I don't know, they might steal my song.
Well, Dean, you'll attest to this every day of the week.
Does that happen, Dean?
Happens. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to play a writer's night because if you have new songs that haven't been cut yet.
Really?
Absolutely.
I pretty much quit playing writers' nights recently. I mean, I played the Bluebird this year, and I played a couple of shows to promote my Frankenstein CD. But but the CD's already recorded. I mean, nobody's going to say they wrote that before me, and it's not commercial to steal. But man, I've had about four things I could say. I'm not going to say who or what songs, but where either somebody completely stole the chorus of the song. One of them, they stole the concept and they made it a little better. That's the danger of living in Nashville.
Yeah.
They came up with a song that had my exact title, except one extra little twist at the end that made it even cooler. And, I gave them the idea. I'm almost sure of it,
Yeah. I did a little foray into the film and screenwriting business, and it's kind of like the same thing, when you sign a non-disclosure form to like a big company, which I actually did. And you read this form and it says, well, if we're going to look at your stuff, but if we happen to come up with a movie that's pretty much exactly like yours, in the future, it just means that we were probably thinking of that, or we had the same thing going at the exact same time that you sent your thing to us. And that's like standard.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess it's the same. It's kind of the same mindset with songwriting.
I have some of the people that come in I write with at Marquee doing the lesson stuff, and basically it's not so much that I'm doing a class with them. I'm trying to take their ideas and show them how to craft them and formulate it and get a twist, and I give them examples of great lyrics and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Mark Scola used to say this to me. He goes, "Doctor, let them steal it. Let them make it a hit." Because if you wrote it and it's on your computer or it's on something that has a date stamped on it, look what just happened with Blurred
Tom
Lines.
Petty.
Look what happened with Tom Petty. I mean, you're talking about a ridiculous amount of money once it becomes a hit like that. But
so you shouldn't be afraid to put your stuff out there. Just protect yourself.
No,
right?
you just gotta. If you're going to writers' nights where a lot of people are coming, a lot of other writers, you just got to know that there's always a chance that they may hear a line like somewhere between Jim Beam and John 16.
Right,
you know that's getting taken.
Right.
Everybody in the room is using that line in a song.
Right. Yeah.
I remember I heard a kid in Nashville at the Bluebird one night. I just went in. I didn't know who was playing. I don't even think it was a featured night, Dean. It may have been a Sunday or something. Some kid from Alabama jumped up on a stool. He started playing this thing, and I heard him say that line, and I went, oh, I didn't use it, but I knew somebody.
Of course.
That line's been used in I don't know how many songs, but it's one of those things. Some people, I don't want to say people go there intentionally because I don't believe that.
Right.
What I believe is somebody gets inspired hearing somebody's new idea, and then they decide to write something similar, and unfortunately, sometimes a lot of it runs over. And
it's not even just exact lines either. It's also like the concept of the angle into the song. You hear that and you're like, oh, I never thought of that. It's pretty cool. Then you could go write a whole different song. Their song sucked, but they had a good angle in it. Or maybe the song was fine. But you hear that angle and you're like, oh, I could do that with a song. And then you write a song like that. Now the pros, they hear that stuff. They can write the shit out of any idea you have. So if you have an idea, you better write it so well that it's not even possible for anybody to beat it. Because there's plenty of guys who can, and they'll just do it. If you had the title Friends in Low Places, you could write that song. You could write it any way you wanted to. It's just a good idea,
Right. Well, that's the same. That's the same experience I had in the film business as well. Is that I had a screenwriters group, and I had some people come in that they would have this idea, and they would finally tell us what the idea was, and then it's like, well, that's really, really a good idea. I can see that being made into a movie, but they would never really do, or the screenplay just sucked, or they wouldn't do anything. And you know what? I know it sounds a little cruel, but why should the world be deprived of your great song just because you don't want to write it? Why don't if somebody else comes along and takes your idea because you're too lazy or whatever, and then that's kind of like the way it is. It's a little bit of a
if you want to be in the business of songwriting, you really, in my opinion, you gotta think the business side of it all the time. You just do, because you got to expect certain things. And if you want to cover yourself on this or that, you just got to be thinking ahead. That's all. Yeah. I remember some of the first guys I got hooked up with to write they had tons of hits. I mean, I was definitely intimidated. I was just like, but I was on fire, though. I was so eager to get in there. They used to tell me I'd show up at the door early, ready to rock. And I had one guy, Anthony Lilly, used to go, Swamp, could you come back in about an hour? I'm not quite awake yet. You know?
Anthony.
Not ready for you.
Yeah. But the thing is, a lot of those guys had huge hits in the late 90s, early 2000. And, you know, if you don't have anything for 3 or 4 years, you start getting that little pissed off, jaded. I don't, you know. So when I got there in particular, and Dean, you can attest to this too, I just wanted to be like a sponge.
Sure.
I mean, in the first year, I was writing 2 and 3 sessions a day with people I had no idea who they were. The problem with that is you never get back to finish the demos. So if you and I and George write today, and me and Dean write today, and me and Johnny and Joey write all today, we wrote 3 songs, or at least started 3. Yeah. It may be 2 or 3 weeks before you and I and George get back together, me and Dean get together. So all of a sudden, 4 months later, you're finally finishing a song, but you've started 12 this week.
Right, right.
The second year, I cut everything down by 65% and just tried to go and write with people that I knew did better things than I did. You know what I'm saying? If I was a better guitar player, then I get a piano player or a singer or a lyricist or whomever it was. Try to surround yourself with
people
with things that you don't do as well.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Especially if you can get together with somebody who's more experienced, or especially in a songwriting, who has more experience in that business as well.
Right.
Right.
Is that? And I don't know if that's how helpful other songwriters are to help you get into that business.
I think sometimes if they see that you've got the goods, at least they can see it's there. Maybe it's not developed yet, but they know you got it, and they see that you're on fire and you just want to go. I think they open up. Don't you, Dean?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky. I mean, I didn't ever write with Rivers Rutherford, but when I first moved to Nashville, he's a big songwriter. He's had a lot of #1s. He's a great songwriter, great guy. He spent a lot of time with me. He might have felt sorry for me because I cut my finger off. I don't know, but he listened to a lot of my songs and gave me a lot of good advice about songs. And I mean, there's a few people like that really opened up and helped me out, because I was like, when I got there, man, I could feel the power coming out of the ground, like I was one of those trains in Chicago, the L train with the third rail. I was just drawing like energy. I could feel it in that town.
Wow, that's great. Well, you know what? I'll tell you, this show goes by really, really fast when it comes to talking to you guys that have a lot of information to impart, and I'm happy to do it, because there's a lot of songwriters that that might be new that you could give some good advice to here, and I think maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the business end of things, and maybe how you guys what you've learned about it, maybe some kind of information that you want to impart to like other songwriters out there. Yeah. But there's another part of our show here where we get to actually play some music too.
Sure.
So maybe we could do that for a little bit, and at the end of the hour here, we'll play a little music together.
Okay. But
Mr. Madonia,
yes,
let's go to him first, because we're going to play a video.
Okay.
You've sent me a couple of videos. Tell me a little bit about your. Let's. You know what? I kind of glanced over your whole thing, Dean. Tell us a little bit about where you ended up where you're at right now. A little bit about the music library that you have, and what this video is that we're going to play.
Okay, I believe that you're going to play the song "Running from the Moon," which is from my CD "Shadow to Shadow: Dean Madonia's Frankenstein," which I just happen to have a copy of right here because I knew it was going to be on Rick's radio show.
Yeah.
And
now there's a concept for you.
Look, that's me. I had to decide to pose as Frankenstein. Basically, this is a CD I did for myself. I used to write for myself, and I got really involved in the business of Nashville and the slugging it out and getting the rejection that Keith's been talking about, and some success, but I had to do something for myself. So it's a 29 track concept CD based on the story of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Wow.
And I kind of updated it and made it to have a bookend that the monster's still alive and he's telling the story to a genetic researcher. So the song I think you're going to play, Running from the Moon, is when Victor sees that the monster is not the paragon of humanity, uber person that he thought he was creating, but really a hideous monster, and he totally has a meltdown, and that's what this song's about.
All right, well, let's play the name of the song again, Dean. I'm sorry. Is
Running from the Moon.
Running from the Moon by Dean Madonia on his Frankenstein album on SoFloRadio.com. We'll come right back.
just being tired of writing constantly that in the box thing that Keith was saying, the 335 songs. I just wanted to stretch out a little bit because I used to be in that band Third Wish. You know, we were a prog.
Great prog band.
Thanks. And Jonathan Kreisberg, legendary jazz player now, was the guitar player in that band. I started working on it just for my own sanity on the side. It ended up being like 4 years. I was writing it in hotels and on planes and recording it in band houses and in hotels. I had the band come in. I did all the demos first. I had the band come in and record all of the guitar, bass, and drums live. And then I started doing the overdubs. And speaking of, we were talking earlier about a demo I was mixing the other day that my wife was getting tired of. This CD, boy, she'd call me and say, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you think I'm doing?" She's like, "Frankenstein." Like,
I'd call him up. "Hey, dude, what's been happening?" Frankenstein.
Yeah, dude. I think I started going a little bit over the edge with that thing. But it turned out I'm really happy with it, and it's been getting great reviews. I think I mentioned to you off the show, Rick, that I got 14 out of 16 rating in Progression magazine, which is arguably the Bible of prog music, and I beat Pink Floyd, Asia, and Marillion in reviews.
Okay.
So I was pretty excited about that.
You're rocking, brother.
You are rocking, and it's
well, you know, that and $5 will get me a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Flat white. That's 506, I think it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Starbucks is a little bit more expensive these days. Yeah, but well, you know what? I'm really glad to be able to have you on the show here, man. And
thanks for having me. Hey, can I give a shout out to the players real quick on that?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
My bass player is Travis Vance, and he's in Thomas Rhett's band. It's a famous country band, and he's playing stadiums now, so I couldn't get him for that show. So I got Kevin Ogburn to take his place, and the drummer, Michael Walter, from the CD is he's all about recording now. So I got Noah Hungate, which is David Hungate's son. That's the bass player for Toto, on drums. And, I mean, he's a monster. And then, of course, Val Lupescu is a South Florida guy. He's played a lot down there, and he's in Nashville now. And his cousin, Tim Pasley, on guitar. I loved that band. We only played 2 shows because it's just you can't get anybody to come and see you play a show in Nashville because everybody's a musician and they all know 20 musicians. So
well, you've always attracted really good musicians with everybody you play, which is a good testament to it yourself, I would say.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Like I heard this somewhere. I didn't make this up, but I always like to say that if I'm not the worst player in the band, then I'm in the wrong band.
Yeah, that is a good one. That's how I started, man. When I was a kid, I met some guys that were older than me, and I thought they were rock stars.
Absolutely.
And I go, man, I really want to play with those guys. Turned out to be a mistake. No, not really. No, it was fun. It led us to where we are today, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, you learn that even the people that aren't good, you learn something from them. You can learn something from anybody.
Yep. I've heard some of the best advice on music from people that can't play a note, but they are true audiophiles. Like, they'll turn me on to music that I've been looking for all my life. I've had that happen a couple of times with people that have these great collections of music.
Right.
Maybe not so much nowadays, but when I was younger, I would be introduced to this person, and they don't know how to play or anything, and
they just love music.
Yeah, and
they love it.
Yeah, they love it, and they seek it out. I go, wow, where'd you find that?
I have a friend of mine like that, and I always say to him, where do you have the time? I mean, and the truth is, he's been doing it since he's a kid.
Sure.
And he is a writer. He's a little older than I am, and let me tell you something. He knows about every artist, every song from the 60s to 70s in particular.
It's a devotion.
Yeah. It's totally.
I had a friend in my roommate in college. We're still friends, Dan Leichus. He's the one that got me interested in progressive rock, which probably ruined my chances at ever becoming successful.
Yeah.
But
you could have actually been celibate all your life if you really, but you got lucky.
Exactly. But this guy, he was way into the bands. Like, he had a chart on the wall of his basement that listed every, UK, King Crimson, the Strawbs, Asia, Genesis, every band, yes, and then who was in the band, and then who replaced who, and little arrows drawing across the whole basement wall of which side projects they did and what other bands they went into. I mean, the guy is super knowledgeable about music, and that's like Keith was saying, that was my guy. I mean, he introduced me to hundreds of bands and musicians. I mean, actually, that Frankenstein thing, if it wasn't for him, that would never have happened.
Wow, that is interesting. Thank God for those people, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Keith, why don't we let's listen to a little song. I don't want to run out of time before giving you a chance to play a little song.
Yeah,
here if you want.
I mean, I didn't have anything planned. I can definitely do something. I'll pull it out of the hat. But one thing, we want to make sure we at least get to do the That's Your Boy.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got like 10 minutes, so I think we could either play that song or you could play a song, or
I can do either or. If I play one, do we still have time to play that?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
George, we have time, right? He's going to give us time. Okay.
So, not being prepared to do a song, I only thought we were doing that one song, but this is something new that I've finished up and just finished recording. I'm not a singer, so you're going to hear the worst vocal on it, but not like Dino.
Maybe you don't want me to sing it.
But I'm going to take a shot anyway. Anyway, I had this idea about just a guy that doesn't change for anyone. And I was totally thinking Hank Williams Jr. And luckily, I'm able to get it to him. And we haven't pulled the trigger yet, but we're able to get it to him with thankfully no problem. But anyway, like I said, I don't sing it, but I'm going to play it. I wrote it.
Okay, let's listen to Keith Ridenower.
Dirt on my boots, holes in my jeans. I drive an old Ford truck that was built to last in 1983. Lying down in the water, fish up in my boat. Earnhardt ball cap turned around back, laid my Aussie oak. That's who I am, and who I always be. Well, I'm a son of the South, and there ain't no doubt nobody's ever gonna change me. That's who I am. You can look around and see I'm a simple man. That's who I am, and who I always be. That's who I am. That's who I am. Try to do the right thing, even when it don't seem right. If you push too hard, go too far, you better be ready to fight. Raise a little hell on Friday, Saturday I'm sleeping in. Church on Sunday, work on Monday, and do it all over again. That's who I am, and who I'll always be. I'm a son of the South, and there ain't no doubt nobody's ever gonna change me. That's who I am. Yeah, look around and see. Well, I'm a simple man. That's who I am, and who I always be. That's who I am. That's who I am. When I lay my head down, close my eyes and fall to sleep, I know the man that I am, and who I'll always be. That's who I am, yeah, and who I'll always be. Well, I'm a son of the South, and there ain't no doubt nobody's ever who I am, yeah, yeah. You can look around and see. Well, I'm a simple man. That's That's who I am. Whoa, whoa, that's who I am.
All right.
All right. What you think of that,
Nice.
Dean?
I want to hear Hank doing that song.
Yeah, I could hear that. I think that's his next hit song. I hear that on the radio for sure, man. That's a great crossover.
Your words to God's ears.
Oh, what a treat. Thanks, Keith. That was
Yeah,
great. What do you mean you're not a singer? I mean,
I'm not a singer.
George tells me all the
You sound
time.
good, dude.
George
You're fine.
Rodriguez tells me what a great singer he is, and I'm telling you, you sing a little bit better than George Rodriguez. A little bit.
I'm good at showing the singer the idea. That's what I'm good
that's perfect. That's all
what
you
I'm
need
good
to
at.
do.
Showing the
Yeah.
real singer the idea.
Yeah, that's great. All right, you know what? I thank you guys a lot for being on the show, and we got one
Thanks for
more
having us.
little segment. You're absolutely welcome. We're pleased to have you here and to help you guys. So we're going to play a little song together, and then when we come back, we'll just tell everybody how they can, get a hold of you guys and what's the latest thing that you're doing, and we'll wrap
Sure.
up the show. Okay. So, but I know that this little song, you sent me a file of it yesterday, so I am prepared to
Awesome.
play, which is cool. That's not always the case. But you want to tell us a little bit about the idea of this song that you guys wrote together?
Absolutely. I'll tell a little bit, and then Dean can obviously finish it. I think Dean came up with the idea for "That's Your Boy," the title. I don't even remember how we did it, but the whole concept I do remember is about being the stepfather of a child, and the biological fathers not being involved.
Yeah.
And Dean and I were both, and still are, in that situation. Now, my stepson, I've been with since he's 5 years old. I've never even called him my stepson. So, but that said, at one point, it was that situation.
Yeah.
And
we both had the same
Yeah.
Right.
thing.
So-
My stepson's dad has never been really present in his life. I called myself the stunt double because I did all the hard,
Sure.
the heavy lifting.
Right,
And then
right.
he'd walk in and give him a new phone or a
Yeah.
Xbox, but he was totally absent, and he's done some horrible things to him, over the years.
Right.
And this song, I came up with the idea because I was thinking, my wife's like, don't talk to him. I'd like to punch him personally, but still. But so this is how, that's another thing about songwriting is you can let some things out. And if it's a true song, both of us are stepdads. So it resonated, I think, with Keith when I showed him the lyrics that I had, and he brought it to Heartland, and they all tweaked it and came up with the music. And I like this song a lot. So
All right. It's another thing about these this new crossover country music is there's a lot of real human, heartfelt subjects that the songs are written about, and I appreciate that.
there was until about Luke Bryan. Now it's all about, come on, girl, get in my truck.
Yeah.
I'm going to get drunk and run stop signs. You want to ride with me? And then we can get,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think it went downhill from achy breaky heart, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, exactly. You guys
Anyways,
want to try this?
yeah,
Let's do it.
All right. Remember, I can't hear anything you guys
Oh yeah, don't tell the audience that. It's
All
a
right.
secret.
Oh, no, this is we've been working. Okay.
No, it's gonna be perfect.
1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you for taking time to meet me here. Pull up a seat and let me buy you a beer. I know it's hard to let down your guard and open up your heart. Just hear me out. There's a lot of old photos I've been going through. There's a handful here I wish had been taken by you. You got to see him to believe him. Someday you're gonna need him. Where will he be? That's your boy. that's your boy. I took this picture at his little league game. Me and his mama were screaming his name. When he stole the base, should have heard the place. He never saw your face. Imagine how he feels. That's your boy. And soon he'll be a man. That's your boy. Get to know him well you can. He's growing up fast. But it ain't gonna last. In a few years he'll be running free. Well, he's been like a son to me. But that's your boy. Here is the truth. He still loves you. It's not too late, just overdue. Make him believe that love is real. Let's break that chain. That's your boy. And soon he'll be a man. That's your boy. Get to know him well you can. Growing up fast, but ain't gonna last. And daddy's love is what he needs. Even though he's been like a son to me, that's your boy. That's your boy. That was for Benjamin.
All right. That
Good
was
job,
great.
bro.
Thanks. Good job, man.
Thank you.
That was
Fun
it.
jamming with you guys.
Yeah, it sure was. And that was it for our show today.
Went by quick, man.
Yeah, it sure did, man, especially when I got such good friends, good artists there. What's that, Dean? What are you trying to say?
This is Pretty Little Horses. This is a side project of mine. It's a pop thing with my friend Greg Kirby
Yep.
from the Luck of Eden Hall in Chicago. Check this out, too.
Okay, where can we find that? Where can we find that?
These are all on iTunes, CD Baby, all the usual suspects, Spotify. When
Well-
you leave the house, put all of my music on a Spotify playlist and just let it run constantly in a loop until you get home from work.
Good idea, Dean. Thank you very much for joining the show, my friend. Really great to see you.
Thanks for having me. Nice talking to you guys. Take
Take care,
Swampy.
brother.
All right, and
All right.
Keith Ridenower, thank you very much for
got it,
being
man.
on the
Always a
show.
pleasure.
Yes, sir. That was it for Rick's Show on the Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Got some great musicians, some great artists, great filmmakers, and great world shakers coming up on some future shows. So join us next week, and thanks for having us and inviting us into your house on Rick's Show on the Radio on SoFloRadio.com.
You're listening to SoFloRadio.com.